So my full names are Jimmy Muraguri Mwangi. I think at best, I like to describe myself as a complete believer in the cause of African brands and the opportunity that the whole idea of creating African brands brings to our continent, to our country. And I think because of that, I have always put myself at the forefront or even behind the scenes of making that possible. Professionally, I am a marketing professional. Marketing is a word that I know is used a lot, but a lot of times when people hear the word marketing, they always think about the thing that they end up seeing, which is a lot of times the noisy side of marketing, the advertising world. But the marketing side or the marketing world is quite huge. And maybe just for purposes of creating clarity, when you say the marketplace, obviously the marketplace is a place where consumers, products and services meet. And when you're in the marketing world, of course, the marketplace is something that evolves consistently over time. You're not the same consumer you were 3 years ago. You're not the same person you were 2 years ago. Your interests change, your motivations change, what your goals are change. And I think in line with that, there first comes the need for people to understand and therefore research. So research is a component of marketing. Once you understand, you're able to help businesses navigate, help institutions, brands, and organizations navigate the so-called marketplace. And when you say that, obviously you mean strategy. So that's another component of marketing. And then comes this other world of implementation. And in today's world, implementation comes through tech, right? So tech is also a line within marketing in itself. And then of course there's what people see, which is communication. But lastly, for communication to be seen, there is elements of design. And I know when I say design, people just assume the aesthetics, but there is, yes, aesthetics, but also design in the sense of designing services, designing products that people care for, designing experiences. So that has been my world, and for the last 15 plus years, from what started off as a background in visual design, it has evolved into a strategic role, helping organizations, helping institutions navigate change, solve complex problems, and stay relevant within the marketplace. So maybe I start off a bit. Let me take a few steps back and perhaps just give context to this. As I started off, I said that I'm a complete believer in the existence of African brands. And this is because when I think of it, we as Africans, we as Kenyans, have not been very good at what I like to call value creation, right? What is X could very easily be 10X. And let me give you an example. If you look at what we do and what we have done through history, we have been producing commodities, right? So you have a farmer who, say, for example, produces tea, right? You have a farmer who produces coffee. This coffee is sold in an auction as a commodity. It then exits the market, comes back in form of finished products and goods, half of which the same farmer cannot even afford at a retail store. And in between there, we lose a huge part of the value chain. And that's what I mean by we have not been very good at value creation. And I think because of being, the beauty about the background that I have been playing in and even our organization has been playing in, is that we are always involved with so many industries at any one point. We're dealing with financial services, we're dealing with retail, we're dealing with FMCG, so many environments that expose us to the world of consumers. And we needed to capitalize on the so-called new consumer, new Kenyan consumer. And that's how Aero was born. It first started off as, when we think about the consumer, as I said before, today, the Kenyan consumer is a very globally oriented person. They watch Formula One. they watch Premier League, they watch Game of Thrones. So you're not just talking to a guy who's closed off and thinking about just their environment, Nairobi, or their environment, Nakuru. They're very globally focused. And so one of the biggest challenges that I think we have as business people today is that we have to start thinking about how to create products and brands that are, yes, local, but can play in a global environment. And having come from a design background, one of the things that we wanted to venture into was the retail segment. And shoes became one, and it's not so much just shoes, because we are thinking about it more as shoes being an entry point, and then it becomes a larger thing that could be exported to the world, in essence. Aero in itself, what is Aero? Aero is therefore a challenge first to ourselves. It was a challenge to ourselves that you have been building brands for institutions, organizations, and the likes. What is that thing? How do you put your money where your mouth is and build something that from scratch that people can find alignment to, that people can see value in, and that people can relate to in a way that grows with them and in a way that reflects society as it is today. So Ero, first of all, I know people always ask me, what's the name? Why the name? Quite frankly, Ero was not the first name that we had come up with. Before we actually hit the market, we had about 18 plus months or so of iterations. This is from design, actual design of the silhouette, coming up with what would it look like, what material would we use, and so on and so forth. And then, of course, the name. It started off with a different name. We had called it Jump. And Jump was a name because it represented this philosophy that we think Aero stands for. The ability to not be confined by your environment and just to jump and take off and take the leap. Irrespective of who you are, irrespective of what you're doing. To be Aero is to be able to just step out of your comfort zone. And with Jump being the first initial name, it's not really a name that can be scalable because it's English, first of all. It's not something that you could export. And we needed something that could carry our own meaning without it having any preconceived notions. Having come from a visual design background, we started off with sketches, which then we went through various iterations. So when I talk about the pre-journey before the actual release, we're talking about maybe an 18 to 20 month period. Going through samples, checking this part, changing this section, in a way that, when you look at certain brands, if you look at Converse, you already know it without even having to be told that it is. You don't even have to see the badge. And so we were trying to arrive at something that was very bespoke, a silhouette that was very bespoke. So the vision for Aero is, I can say there are multiple directions in the way that we think about it. From a brand point of view, we want it to be an idea that is bought into by not just Kenyans, but by Africans and even the world. As I said before, the challenge with the new type of business today that is coming out of Africa is that we don't have excuses anymore. You have to be aligned with global standards. So in a sense, one of the ways that I could describe it is we want to create an iconic trust brand that people believe in, that people relate with, and that people believe they are a part of, right? So strong in a way that it grows with the people, so strong that in a way that it also creates a path for any other person who wants to do the same. Of course, there's the other part of the vision that's going to make that a reality. We would like to, of course, move into 100% local production. But I guess those are things that we will discuss from an operational standpoint. But I think from a broad vision point of view, I'd say that's mostly it.